Uh, Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our very first Young Professionals Coffee Chat. I hope you're as excited as I am for today's event because we've got a great panel of guests joining us today. My name is Kulufelo, and I am a member of the Young Professionals Committee here at SAPICS. Before we begin, I would like to just say a few words regarding today's event and its purpose. Now, as students, one of the greatest challenges we will undoubtedly face when transitioning into our careers is aligning what we have learned in university with the realities and expectations of the workplace. Now, while a university education is essential for establishing the foundation in one's career, the constantly changing work environment and the industry at large can often make the transition from being a student to a young supply chain professional challenging. So one of the ways in which SAPICS is addressing this is through events such as this one. So the purpose of today's session is to provide students and graduates and young professionals with exposure to supply chain professionals that are actively involved in the industry, and more importantly, that understand the challenges and struggles that we will someday face as we make the transition into our professional lives. Now, today's session will be an open platform, so we encourage you to type as many questions as possible in the group chat, or you can also raise your hand. Before we begin, I would like to first of all thank Claire for making this event possible, and I'd also like to offer our guests a very warm welcome. Now, the theme for today's session is, it's not always about what you know, sometimes who you know can make all the difference. Now, our guest speakers for today is Lerato Thabede, and she is a managing director. She's the managing director of Definity Training Solutions. Jaycee Kent, and he is a procurement manager at BCE, a leading supplier of hospitality and food service appliances. And Keabetswe Mpane, and she is the president of SAPICS South Africa. Now, to get things started, we'll have our guests tell us a little bit about their backgrounds, and then I will get the ball rolling with a few questions, followed by a Q&A segment for our attendees. So, Lerato, can you start us off?
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with all of you. Thank you, Kulufelo, for that beautiful introduction. I'm Lerato Thabede, as Kulu had said, I'm Managing Director of Definity Training Solutions. Like many of you, I started out not knowing what supply chain was until I got introduced into it very finally. So I started labeling boxes. That's how I got introduced to supply chain. Pasting boxes, carrying boxes, and understanding that, shoo, this job is going to get this box from one place to another place. And that really got me interested in it. I then studied it. I've been working in mining, manufacturing, and then I decided to move out of corporate. And the reason for that is because I am passionate about supply chain and getting it to grow. And it is one profession that hasn't been taken very seriously. And young people, specifically, that's where I'm at, need to be trained in order for them to fulfill their supply chain duties and to understand what they are doing. So instead of people just being thrown into supply chain, they need the support. And that's where I come in. I am certified in production and inventory management, as well as logistics, transport, and distribution. I've also got a BCom honors in logistics, and I'm working towards my master's in supply chain. So that is me in a nutshell. I can go on for more than 5 minutes, but I don't want to do that. I want to make sure we have enough time for Q&As. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Lerato. Next, Jaycee.
Kulufelo, thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. Firstly, this is a great initiative. I really wish I had this when I was just, getting out of varsity, so I could get a little bit more exposure to, people, what was actually required in the workplace. Just a bit of a background from myself. I originally started my education in marketing, and I quickly learned that, I was interested in supply chain, and I really found it fascinating how could a piece of clothing all the way from China be in my cupboard. So I found that extremely fascinating, and I went to do my honors, BCom honors in logistics and supply chain. Thereof, I started at Sasol tracking vehicles. So, and I was working night shifts. It was doing the dirty work, as you could say. And it's really an important part of learning the basic operations. During that time, I started to, get associated with SAPICS, and I went to go on to study do the CSCP, which is a certified professional, supply chain professional. Thereof, I did my certified professional forecaster. And subsequently, during my varsity, just at the end, I did SCORE S, which is the framework of supply chain operating reference model. So after I was at Sasol for a junior role in a consulting company, I moved up my way into inventory management, and I went to a company called Matus, where I consulted for them. Subsequently, they said, no, we would like you to carry on the implementation, and I worked for them for about 3 years. And it was in various positions, from a marketing analyst to an inventory management specialist and a demand planning manager. After that, I went to a well-known international company, Dermalogica, where I was their supply chain manager. There I was responsible for the entire end-to-end supply chain, so from shipping, distribution, warehousing, and demand planning and inventory management. I got quite a lot of exposure in terms of being a group, into the other aspects of the group aspects of planning and working as a team. Thereof, I've actually just joined BCE as the procurement manager, where I'm responsible for leading the inbound shipping as well as procurement. And that's me in a nutshell right now. And I'm very passionate about assisting people where I can. So yes, thank you very much, Kolofelo.
Thank you so much, Kent. And then next, Keabetswe.
Thank you, Kolofelo. Thank you to all our young professionals that have really made time to be part of this critical developmental session. Considering that we are actually in the Youth Month in the country, how befitting for us to be really holding this session at this point in time or in this juncture in our lives. Many years ago, we were not opportune like yourselves to be able to participate in such functions, to engage, to network, to be able to really take our careers forward. So I'm truly, truly honored to be part of this session. I think the last session I ran, Jenny, how many years ago was that? Maybe 10 years ago, when we were at somewhere in Midrand. So I always take these type of sessions to heart. How did I get into supply chain? I think just like everyone else, I got into supply chain by chance. I'm actually an industrial engineer by profession, but you will later get to realize that with supply chain, you require mixed skills in order for you to be a rounded-up professional. I'm an industrial engineer who then became a project and a program management, who then became a CSCP, and here I am. I'm a certified supply chain professional. Just like I said that I fall into this space by chance, maybe I shouldn't say by chance. One has always been in the supply chain in my over 20 years career. It is just that at the time, we did not refer to it as supply chain. At the time, it had no name. It was not defined. One lived half their life. For my first 3 months, I remember as a young professional, I lived 3 months under a wagon, studying the splitting, the bogey process, where we're maintaining train wagons. Then I moved to drive forklifts. I moved to pack boxes. You know, too often times when people look at us, they think that we just arrived here. Believe it or not, I've done most of the roles within supply chain coming up. I hope this is planting a certain seed into you, meaning that you have to do anything and everything because of when you are content and you know the process in and out. You have an authoritative voice. No one can ever take that away from you. What you know is what you know. And this is the reason why I'm here, and I think we're going to have a delighted time. I was told to remove my gloves by Jenny. I'm going to give you the sisterly talk that you never got to receive from anybody, because of it is what made me who I am today. Thank you, Kulu.
Thank you so much. That was really inspiring. Anyway, we're going to move to the question segment right now. So I've got 4 questions. The first question is for the entire panel, and then the following questions are for each of you individually. So my first question for the entire panel is that, so mentorship can play an important role in encouraging an individual's professional and personal development. Could each of you tell us about any mentorship experiences that you've had, and how such experiences have played a role in shaping your professional careers after graduating from university? Maybe we can start with Lerato.
Yeah, thanks, Kulu. So mentorship for me is very important. I didn't have the opportunity to be mentored when I started, especially let's talk matric now, right? So I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't understand the whole concept of what mentorship was. But as soon as I started working, then I realized I needed somebody on my side, somebody who can chat with me, sit and give me direction, somebody who'd listen and be a sounding board. And since I studied while I was working, it was even harder, and I was a mother as well. So I needed somebody and some bodies that were able to keep me in check. So for me to study CPIM, for example, came from one of my mentors at my first workplace at AEL Mining Services, and she was a mother, she was a supply chain professional, probably one of the first Black females that I had seen in a management role in supply chain. And I needed to see somebody who looked like me in those management roles so that I can know that I can be. And she said to me, Lerato, you're not just going to get an education that is SACA accredited, for example. You need to get certified, because for you to know what you're doing, you need to be all well-rounded. So that's how I got into my CPIM, and that's how mentorship has worked for me in that regard. And as I kept growing, I kept realizing that I needed more and more. So I've got different mentors for different situations. As a mother, I've got mentors that mentor me when I'm being a parent, and in the workplace, in business. Now that I'm an entrepreneur, I've got people that I look up to and I chat with that are entrepreneurs. And mentorship for me is not just, you know, higher up, it's also lower down. So there's young people that I look up to that also mentor me. So that's why for me mentorship is important, and those experiences that I've had with mentors who have been able to point me in the right direction is why I would always say to somebody, get somebody who's on your side, who's willing to listen to you and who will give you direction. Thank you, Kulu.
Thank you, Lerato. Kent? Oh, yes. Sorry, Jaycee. Sorry.
We will talk about that later. So from my side, just, you know, when, like I said at the beginning of this webinar, is that when I came out of varsity, I didn't have anyone to mentor me. And it was, you know, only at a later stage where I was requesting feedback from people. And it was probably when I actually got married to my wife, and it was my father-in-law that mentored me quite a bit. And what it did was actually help me accelerate myself in my career. And it's not in terms of just, you know, the education part, but how do you think? How do you present information? How do you present information to a different target audience? Also, it's not someone there just to go, you know, well done, good job. It's actually someone to have that difficult chat with you to make you grow. And there's this one philosophy, I guess you could call it, that I always turn to is, you know, I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's, how does a lobster grow? And a lobster is obviously, you know, it's surrounded by a hard shell. It's filled with soft tissue. And the way it needs to know that it needs to grow is when it gets to that uncomfortable situation. So it goes under a rock. And what does it do? Comes out of its shell. But if everyone said, yeah, no, don't worry, it's going to be okay, and that was the lobster saying, don't worry, just, take a pull here, you'll be okay, and the lobster would never grow. So you need people in your life that are going to give you honest feedback, the criticism that you need, that's going to put you in the right direction, and also just to help guide you in where you want to go. Often I find that you can have, your thoughts can be, kind of when you come out of varsity, you're not sure where you want to go. And so people to tell you the honest truth, what it's about, what does this role mean? Often we think that it's something else, but it's nice to have someone to help you with that. So it's just about taking that feedback. So for me, I've had that, and it's really helped me specifically in board situations where, and in our industry, sometimes we need to deliver a very complex message, but how do you deliver that message to a board of directors that don't understand the different supply chain terms? How do you simplify that? And that's really helped me. And with that help that I've received, it's my responsibility to give back. And this is one of the forums where I want to assist people. So that's my experience. Thank you, Kolofela.
Thank you so much, Jaycee. And I actually agree with you because, supply chain is such a broad field, and so what I can say on my side is that one of the benefits, that I've gained, after joining SAPICS was kind of getting a clearer map of where I want to go, so I could map out my career by learning about all these other segments of the industry. So yeah, so I truly agree that, mentorship does really play a role, especially when you're starting out. So thank you very much.
Exactly, no problem.
Okay, and next, Keabetswe.
Thank you, Kolo. I think for me, my philosophy, just like Lerato, I have a mentor for every vertical of my life. I'm a businesswoman, I'm a professional, I'm a supply chain influencer, I'm a mother, in all those different aspects of your life, even just personal growth. One needs to have a coach, someone to just verify your decision-making processes with. And with me as a young professional in 1999, well, we're not fortunate that resources were available to want to mentor us. You must have an inquisitive mind as an individual. I basically had to force individuals to be my mentors. I said, there's the trade I like, they're going to be my mentor, and being forceful at it, pushing in through, wanting to know more, asking questions from them. And I think my first 2 or 3 mentors were basically my direct line managers, who become brave enough to make their direct line managers their own mentors. And I am who I am today because of those great mentors I've had. And although at the time I was not comprehending their craftsmanship, maybe one was fortunate or not fortunate to have had mentors that really took a hard line with me. At some point, at that point in time in my life, I thought they were abusive because I had mentors that actually took a militant style of mentorship with me. And I'm grateful to that today because of it is what built the thick skin. Too many times we look into, as a professional or career, we look into the educational aspects, but we don't look into character building. There is no course about character. It is my mentors that came in and actually built this character of thick skin, which we all know that in our supply chain industry is what you need. If you don't have a thick skin, you're not decisive, you're not going to really make it. And I think they've really crafted that thick skin in me, in which is what made me to springboard me or to propel me to my greater heights. So what is the moral of the story? At times you will not be given a mentor. At times you need to go out there and get a mentor for yourself. Keep on pushing until someone can be able to nurture you. And once you are nurtured, The trick is to also nurture others in order for you to perfect that specific trade of giving back and you having a full fulfillment and your true purpose in terms of why you're here on this earth. That's about it from my side, Kolo. It looks like you want me to continue.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. And I really, really agree with you, which is why I'm actually grateful for organizations such as SAPICS, you know, because it actually gives young people like me, students, you know, the opportunity to actually put ourselves out there and actually seek out the mentorship instead of just waiting for somebody to take notice or interest in us. So yeah, thank you very much. Okay, and so I'm just gonna go through a few more questions. My second question, now these are the individual questions. My second question is for Lerato. Now Lerato, you are currently the Managing Director of Definity Training Solutions, where you play a role in the successful leadership and management of businesses. Now, we all know that the supply chain industry is currently facing a major talent shortage. And one of the skills that are missing are that the industry cites is missing from the pool of graduates coming in are soft skills in areas such as leadership and relationship management. So as someone who has experience in leadership, what are some of the small steps that students and graduates can take to develop their leadership skills that you have applied in your professional career?
Thank you, Kulu. Very difficult question, but happy to answer it. The first thing I will say is that they don't teach you leadership in varsity. They teach you leadership perhaps in a course, and they give you the steps of leadership that you need to listen, they teach you textbook leadership. But you gain true leadership by learning how to, one, lead yourself. Right? So you need to know how to lead yourself. And when I say lead yourself is, how do you drive yourself? How do you drive the ambition so you can stand firm in what it is that you stand for, right? The second thing is that when you manage relationships, it also stems from leadership. So how you manage your relationship with yourself. So in terms of having your goals set down, for example, that is going to guide you into how you're going to lead yourself and the relationships that you need to build and maintain while you're doing that. So all of that, we don't really get taught in varsity. It's not part of a module that somebody can say, study this and you'll be a perfect leader, right? You need to build those skills. And one of the things is also shadowing people that you see as leaders. Sometimes you can't really go and stand with them, but if you look at how they progress, so you get them, you have conversations with them, and I want to use a word, you copycat them in a way. So you kind of copy those desired leadership skills that you think you want to see in yourself that will help you stand firm. So as a graduate, the first thing I would say, you need to learn to lead yourself, and that is either by setting your goals, making your vision plan, making a vision board, understanding who you are and where you want to be in your career, in your personal life. That's the first thing you need to do. Secondly, you need to look at the pool of people that you hang around with. Those are the people that will inspire you to create great relationships. So how do you create great relationships? By being a great person, right? That seems like, Lerato, what the hell are you saying? But being the person that you would want people to see, and people that you want to see around you, emulate those people, those great people that are around you. That is getting into relationships, managing those relationships, learning about relationships, learning about people, putting yourself out there, not being afraid to start at the bottom. I think Kea had mentioned a very important point when she was introducing herself, that you start literally at the bottom. You start by packing, by labeling, so that you can understand and be authoritative over what you put out there. So when you stand your ground, as you grow in your career, you stand your ground on experience and on knowledge. So something that you've already been able to practically apply as you go forth and as you carry on in your career. So I would say those are the basic things. Lead yourself, learn how to lead yourself, set your goals for yourself, watch videos. I find there's a lot of videos that are out there that are great in helping you with your soft skills. Things like Simon Sinek, understanding the why you're doing something, what the what is for, and the why and the hows. So watching those leadership videos as well can help you as a young person to gain that confidence to stand on your own 2 feet and to stand for yourself and to stand firm. I think I'll leave it there, but there's actually quite a few things. Also reading leadership books, the more you read, the more you listen, the more you watch, the more you get inside. But you will have to do that knowing who you are and being able to lead yourself and learning how to lead yourself. But I'll leave it there for now. Thanks, Kulu.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Lerato, for that response. Really excellent. Because I can also say, as a student, I completely agree with you. All you learn about with regards to leadership is just theory. But I guess it's something that you actually have to go in the experience and actually practice in the real world. You can't just, rely on theory. You have to learn how to engage with people and build relationships. So thank you very much. Food for thought, really. Thank you. And next, my third question is for Jaycee. Now, I believe that SAPICS is all about embracing a lifelong learning philosophy because it's a community that encourages the sharing of knowledge, insights, and ideas. Now, as a procurement manager with over a decade's experience working in different positions, could you tell us about your certifications and the role that they have played in developing your career? Could you also comment on why you believe students and graduates should consider exploring certifications as part of their growth and development journey?
Sure, no problem. So firstly, I just want to say well done in drafting these questions. I can see you've put a lot of thought into it, and I definitely think it's going to be valuable for the rest of the people on this webinar. So just in my opinion, the lifelong learning philosophy, and it's one of the great things about SAPICS and what I love. It's not you go to varsity, you're done with varsity, and you've got your qualifications and it stays there. One of the key aspects in terms of SAPICS is maintenance. And I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, no, yeah, I've got to maintain this. I don't just get the certification. But if you really want to challenge yourself, you really need to stay, on top. This is what's going to make you stay on top. You need to attend webinars. You need to attend conferences. You need to give back. It's got a lot more purpose, and it makes you stay, firstly, top of mind on what's happening in the industry. And a lot of the certifications, as I mentioned in the beginning, I've got my CSCP. It's very practical. So often you're learning about a textbook explanation in theory, but really, what does that mean? So I found that specifically the way that APEX and SAPICS actually deliver the educational content, you're able to engage in it, reflect, think, and apply it in a real life working situation. So, and my personal experience, what happened was, I started doing these certifications while I was working. And when I was working, I actually could say, oh, so that's what I need to be doing. What it's done for me, it's actually created a foundation when I'm in a board discussion, and I can know that, when I'm having a discussion, it's not my emotion that's telling me, this is what I think. It's best practices. It's got a wealth of knowledge where supply chain professionals all over the world are contributing to this. And every year it's updated. So I guess you could say my advice for the young professionals is to definitely look at going to do certification. It's going to make sure that you are always constantly looking at best practice. because things become outdated. I think if that's one thing we've learned is that information is constantly changing. And, you know, that's what SAPICS and, you know, the professional body that makes up this has realized. And that's why I believe you need to definitely do some of the certification. So, and in terms of my role in my career, as I said, it's built a foundation. It's created practical examples that I can stand firm, you know, against and communicate for. So, yeah, thank you.
Short. Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful answer, Jaycee. And I actually agree with you, because one of the things I've noticed is that with every webinar that I attended here at SAPICS, you know, I'd learn something new that I'd go and research on myself, you know, and keep expanding my knowledge and my understanding of what the industry is actually about beyond my university education. So I totally agree with you that, you know, certifications are, and also being part of a community are important, and meeting people that actually work in the industry and that actually understand the various nuances and challenges and changes that are taking place. So thank you very much. Okay, and so my fourth question is for Keabetswe. Now, you are currently the president of SAPICS and have been described as a visionary with many accolades in the supply chain industry. You've also been described as a leader that draws success from people development, as well as coaching and mentoring individuals to strive for professional success. Now, supply chain is a very broad industry, but however, it doesn't have many female leaders in top positions. But however, this has been gradually changing over the years, with you and Lerato being prime examples of actually women actually taking leadership roles in the industry. So my question to you is, what key piece of mentorship advice could you give to our young female audience that has been instrumental to your success in what has been predominantly a male dominated industry? So do you have any key pieces of advice that you could offer?
Wow, Kolefela, you really like putting me on the spot, right? And I must now think very deep. I think for me, my advice will be for individuals to be patient with themselves. Be patient with yourself and acquire functional knowledge to develop your proficiency. Because of what you know, like I said before, what you know can never be taken away from you. And once you have cemented that, that knowledge and the learnings, you know that you can then be able to develop the confidence to engage authoritatively. Because of if you are unsure of your principles, you will then be scared to be engaging in any platform. But I think to the female professional, I just want to say, don't fall into the trap of the female entitlement. It is a trap. No one owes you anything. And I'm being honest. I think maybe with a affirmative action and all of those things, we are finding ourselves as if we are disabled. We are not disabled. Develop yourself as the best professional you can be. Do not develop yourself as a female professional. You need to be able to go head to toe with any male out there and say, I am the best professional there is. Not that I am the female professional. Because of the moment you then going to label yourself, it is as if you are a token. It is as if you have some sort of disability within you. I'm not disabled. Look at me. All of you are on this chat. Do I look disabled? Does Lerato look disabled? So why are we then labeling it? So my message is not going to the females. My message, it is going to every young professional in this specific chat. What I'm saying to you is cement yourself and be authoritative. And I think from a mentorship perspective, what I've seen throughout my experience, it is humility. Humble yourself. Botu. Why am I referring to this? You're going to be engaging with shop floor individuals who have got the most critical experience that they have acquired and learned over the years. It's not in any textbook. So if you are not humble, they will never impart that knowledge onto you. So I've picked that up, that most of my supply chain experience actually is coming from the depth of the shop floor, sitting with those forklift drivers, sitting with those picker packers, sitting even with some of the security guards that are overlooking and guarding your warehouses. You will learn some of the most critical life experiences from them. And no textbook, no curriculum ever offers this. There is no curriculum on humility. So I'm saying, as a professional, whoever is mentoring you, you need to welcome to be mentored. You also need to be looking at people, because of those individuals, when you look at them as people, you value them. They have a sense of value. When they have a sense of value, they impart more knowledge, which is the critical skill that you need to be amassing for yourself as a professional. So what is it? Be patient, be humble, and you're not disabled, females. You're not entitled. No one owes you anything.
Sure.
Wow, thank you. Oh, you can take over, Claire.
No, I'm just feeling I'm inspired, actually, I must just say. Thank you, Kolofelo, for leading the discussion and preparing such great questions. And thank you to our mentors for their great answers. We're going to open it up to the floor now. And I have one question from Ravash. But before I get to that, my take-home points that I've just highlighted so that we don't forget them is find a mentor. Look, be authoritative, reach out, find somebody on the same level as you, higher than you, lower than you. I love Lerato saying you can also have mentors and learn from people who are younger than you. I'm definitely finding that at the moment in the middle of my career. Find a coach, and then if that's prohibitive, then listen to YouTube videos, as Lerato mentioned. That's fantastic. Use this community and the SAPICS resources. Really, we're here. It's why you're all involved. It's why you've invested in yourselves, and reach out to us and SAPICS management so that we can help you and guide you on your way. Even if you might think it's a strange question, please just drop us a line and we'll help you to the best of our abilities, or forward you to people who will know the answer. Be goal orientated and learn whilst working. I think it's very important to be able to apply theory to practical solutions, to practical issues, as Jaycee mentioned. And be patient, cement yourself, be authoritative, be humble, and be true to yourself. I think that's what we've learned already this afternoon. So Ravash, we are currently in a terrible place economically in the world. How do we as young people move up the corporate ladder and become more successful? Are there any practical tips for fast tracking our progress to move from internships, grad programs to permanent employment? So, any practical tips for fast tracking our progress to move from internships, grad programs to permanent employment? Any one of our mentors would like to put up their hand to answer that question?
Hi, Ramesh. That's a very interesting question, right? So one thing I always say to interns and graduates is that you are given a task, you do that task. Go outside of that task, right? So you want to remember who you are, that you are good. Go outside of your task. Do more than what is just required of you. If you are working with demand planners, go and learn what demand planners are there. What do demand planners do? Go to them and say, is there anything that I can do for you? You know, can I maybe tap up a spreadsheet for you? Can I put in figures for you? Go to the distribution manager and say, is there anything I can do in the distribution in the warehouse for you that I can take and so put yourself out there. That's one thing that I would say, that if you're already in workplace, go and hunt for more, go and be eager, go and go and cement yourself out there, you know, get yourself into positions where you can show that you are willing to grow and become bigger. Another thing I just want to mention is that the ratio of jobs to unemployment, I mean, our unemployment rate is very high in South Africa. The ratio is very high, and we need to try and find ways that we start recognizing small businesses as well and becoming our own bosses to see how else we can grow, so we can create more jobs. So that's some food for thought for young people out there.
Thanks, Lerato. Jaycee, did you want to add anything to that? Sorry, I took so long to copy that message.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. Can you hear me clearly firstly?
Yes.
Great. So I think, Lerato, you really touched on the importance of it. You know, things aren't going to come into your lap, and you really need to seek, you know, this experience. You need to, as Lerato said, you know, go do that project, get involved in that project that you might not have experience in, because that's the only way you're going to get that experience. You need to be able to try, test it, fall, get up and dust yourself off. And you're not going to be great at the first time. Don't wait to be perfect. You know, often I feel, in my opinion, in my past is, you know, I always wanted to wait until I'm perfect at it, but you're not. And the sooner you realize that you're only going to get better is the more you apply yourself to it. And often, you know, you need to take on roles that don't lie in your current responsibility. And that's really where your learning area is going to come from, you know, not just in your current role, but in other aspects of the business. And it may not even be just in supply chain or operations. Get to know what's happening with marketing, because it has a direct influence on supply chain. And that's one of the aspects of why I also, you know, I did marketing and I went into supply chain, because you need to understand the entirety. It's not just logistics, it's supply chain. And not everyone understands that we actually touch every single area in the business, from finance, when it's cash flow, from sales, ensuring stock's available, procuring the right stock at the right price. So just really put yourself out there, go into different aspects and communicate. I mean, talk to your line manager, tell them what you want to do. This is your ambitions. How can they help you? You know, hopefully you've got a good manager there that can help you to do these, but you have to manage up. So communicate what your desires and goals are.
Excellent. Thank you both.
Can you just add a little bit to what Nathan and Lerato have said? I want to challenge the young professional. 33% of the supply chain workforce will be retiring. 74% of our youth is unemployed. If we as supply chain professionals, so what is supply chain? Supply chain, when you look at it, whether we like it or not, is all about business management, flow of product, flow of goods, cost containment, ethical supply chain, the product flowing, the information flowing. So supply chain is the business. So I would like to task our young professionals to start changing and reconfiguring their thinking with regards to the question that has been posed in terms of, I've just graduated, how soon can I move to a permanent position? How soon can I go up the ladder? I want to challenge you to say, have a business thinking mind that says, as a professional, how many jobs can I create? Because of the economy of this country, it's only going to transform through our small businesses. We need many, many companies that can be able to hire 10 people, 20 people. And we now have, with disruptive technology, we have this millennial brain that is so agile, that is so in sync with digitization. And I'm putting this as a task to you to say, Be creative. What is it that you can create that is a market gap that can be able to create employment, as opposed to you being a dependent of getting employment?
Thank you. Thank you for that. Please feel free to, we've got another 15 minutes. Please feel free to ask any questions, either by raising your hands and asking verbally or putting it into the chat. It's not supposed to be one-sided, so please feel free to engage or comment on any of what has been said today already. Do any of our, we have a question about, from Thabiso. Would anybody like to answer that? I have over 8 years in the procurement mining industry. However, I do not have any certificate in supply chain, but a bachelor's in leadership. Will being certified in supply chain fast track my career growth in supply chain?
Let me take that one. I think Jenny knows professional development is very key to my heart. Yes, Thabiso, I think it's Thabiso Matete. Thabiso, we have indicated that your first qualification is not the end of your qualifications. Earlier on, when I started the session, I spoke about continual learning and continual personal development. So you will need to at least enhance the skills that you already occupy, because you've acquired those skills through experience, or could I rather say prior learning. Experience in the workplace has provided you with this procurement skills, but you've got no certification. Go out there, get your CSCP, go out there, got your CPIM, go out there, you can even get your MSIPs. Let's not forget that supply chain is very broad. So you are specifically in the procurement place. Research to find out what are the enablements or courses that you can be able to engage in, as short courses that can be able to put you there. One thing that I want to highlight, besides just the certification, please take note about the designation. Our country is evolving. It will be key that we have professionals that are now designated as the pilots of the roles that they're doing. So you will need to be designated within the role as well. I hope it has answered your question.
Thanks, Kea. Any other questions?
Okay, can I just elaborate on that question? Sorry, for Thabiso as well. I mean, Thabiso, well, obviously, I don't know what your career goal is overall. And I think one of the important aspects that Lerato touched on earlier is doing a vision board. And this is, you setting up where you want to be. And when you get that vision of where you want to be, it's going to drive the rest of your behavior and what you need to do to get there. And that's why the people within this forum are those people that are going to help you get there. So I just encourage you to speak to, anyone on this panel. I'm sure you can touch base afterwards, because that's where the true value is going to come, to better understand where you are and what you want to achieve, and to also realistically, what it is you need to do. And I find that often you want to rush to get to the top, but at the top there's a great responsibility. And Kea spoke about it. You've got, if the higher you go up, the more responsibility you've got to give back and look after your people and make a difference, specifically in this country. So when you're thinking about your career and you want to be right at the top, just remember there's a bigger aspect that we need to take into consideration, and it's how are you going to give back? Anyway, I hope that answers your question. Thabiso, if you want to chat afterwards, I'm more than willing.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Jaycee. Precious has just let us know she started as a supply chain controller in a very small firm, but she manages all the procurement of the factory stock. So I think that's also indicative of how even though you've come in as a supply chain person, you're also now covering other areas of the supply chain spectrum, which is actually quite important. And well done, Precious, and good luck to you. And yeah, we look forward to having you as a mentor in a few years to our students. Thanks for the question, Dave. Could the panel help with their most relevant resources for job finding for graduates additional to LinkedIn? Where do they see entry-level options being advertised for these positions? Right, who wants to pick that one up? Lerato, do you have any ideas on that? Oh, suddenly there's lots of...
I feel the LinkedIn is probably one of the best places to go. And also there's a lot of big companies that have got graduate positions. So, you know, your SAPs, your Coca-Colas, they would really have like supply chain graduates. But LinkedIn, even the is it Peanuts, the Peanuts of the world, the Career 24s, they are out there to put graduate positions up, and also Tech Pro, which is specifically for supply chain programs.
Sorry, I'm putting a message down, I'm sending it to the wrong thing. We have Orange Recruiting as well, Tech Pro, the People Shop, and also the SAPICS career portal on our website for members. So reach out and have a look there as well. Right, Precious has a question. How can I grow myself in the supply chain as I studied in industrial engineering but got a job as a supply chain controller? How can I grow myself in the supply chain? I think here, I think you may be well placed to answer that, but I think further studying as much as you can. And as Kea mentioned, talk to your line managers, tell them where you want to be, and ask them how are you going to get there? What's the next step? What do I need? What does that role? What's the job description of that role? And what do I need to study in order to get to that position? But over to you, Kea.
Thank you. I can't remember, where does the question come from?
From Precious.
From Precious. Precious, I'm an industrial engineer myself. I think maybe at the beginning when I started, you might not have been there. But this is what I want to impart. Everyone's qualification, your first degree, second degree, it does not necessarily say that you've got a skill. Your first qualification just gives an indication that you've got the capability and the capacity to be trained into complex theories. And when you enter the job place, you'll be able to then absorb the teaching of that job place much easier and be able to progress further. So you're coming from industrial engineering brain, you are now a stock controller. Within your stock controlling duties, I hope that you are not just utilizing the scanners and you're only approaching your job in that manner. I'm hoping that you are looking into the bigger scheme of things to say, how do I make this warehouse efficient? Those are your traits as an industrial engineer. How do I make the job that I'm doing every day much simpler, much efficient, cost effective? Because of the moment you start engaging into those additional projects on your own and pre-positioning them to your manager, they will then be able to see that there is more capability here, more than just a stock controller. That's how you force yourself into a promotion. Too many times we sit in a corner and we wait for a promotion to come. At times, it is up to you as an individual to change and reorganize the environment where you're in, where the organization will then start creating a new opening or recrafting a role so that you can go and play into a more value-adding role than anybody else.
Thank you, Kea. We've got three more questions, I think, so we'll just we'll try and get through those quickly. A question for Jaycee. I don't know if you saw it, Jaycee, from Ravash. Did you see it in the chat? I've been given a new duty on top of my original duties in raw material forecast procurement. Any tips for forecast procurement? Whew, that sounds like a big question.
No, it's It's fine. I think, you know, Kea actually elaborated on it right now. And I think that's a very important aspect everyone within this forum needs to take home is, you know, you've got a role, but how are you adding value to the business? And how are you communicating that back to your line manager and even to so that he can communicate that to, you know, if it's his line manager, because that's going to be really the value add. And if you're talking about procurement and forecasting, there's many aspects where you can make a huge impact on the business. If specifically, you know, you could add value in terms of procuring the correct at the right price, reducing the total cost of the business, and having the largest impact inventory. Businesses' largest impact the biggest part of their business is actually invested while it's holding inventory. And you can make a huge difference in making things more efficient. And that's where your certifications will help you. You know, you can always turn back to what is best practice and know that people have done this, tried and tested, it will work, and have faith in the process. Ensure that you're measuring it. So all your good work doesn't just go down the drain. You measure it and you communicate that up. So I just hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Jaycee. Tando, do companies help students who would like to learn the practical work of supply chain while they are still studying so that they can gain experience even while they're still in the process of completing their courses? I would like to think that that does happen.
Yeah, I think there's companies that offer vacation work. I'm not sure with the current situation that we have with COVID, but you knock on the door. They're not going to come to you. You are going to have to go and knock on the door. And I would think that you would have to be willing to almost work for nothing to get that experience. But I think there are probably a few companies that allow people. I did VAC work while I was in varsity as well. So, yeah.
Reach out to your networks, as Jenny says, your own networks, your own personal networks, LinkedIn, and ask the questions. Thanks, Ravash, for putting that on. Indeed.com helps with advertising for grade programs and internships. Fabulous. Ryan, what are the panelists' thoughts on becoming a specialist within a certain area of supply chain compared to gaining experience broadly across the supply chain disciplines? It's a good question. Jaycee, you unmuted, so do you want to pick that up?
Yeah, sorry, maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but again, Kea, you seem to have hit all the notes in the beginning here, and one of the aspects you said was get an insight of the entire supply chain. So again, it depends on what you want to achieve, and a lot of the time you need to reflect on yourself and say, where do I want to go in what direction? And that's going to determine if you want to be a specialist. And the more you become specialized, the more difficult it might be to actually get out of that specific area. So if that's what you want and that's all you want to do, that's fine. And that's the route you can go down. The challenge and the risk is that you could become redundant in the sense if something becomes automated in that area, there is a lot of risk. So my advice would be rather understand the broader scope and learn as much as you can in various aspects of the business, as you'll have such a much larger impact on the business. Often, I think you end up thinking in a specific silo and not understanding the impacts in other areas of the business.
Great. Okay, it's now 5 o'clock when we should be closing. So let me just quickly read this one. I think many graduates and undergrad students are always thinking of how they can cement themselves in employment or fast track their careers in order to be successful. I'm worried about getting a job after I graduate, as I'm sure most graduates are. I would like to know if there's any advice or motivation you can give us that would at least encourage us or help us have a positive outlook on the upcoming work environment. I hope that you have had some inspiration from our brilliant panelists today. But feel free to email us if you have any other questions in this regard. I see that somebody, Leslie's asking about how we can engage with mentors, and perhaps we should, Jenny, maybe if you want to step in, and maybe we need to make a more formalized kind of mentorship program. Maybe it's something we can look at, and just to see if, you know, we can maybe reach out to our young professionals and say, you know, we have these people who are happy to put their hands up, and maybe we can connect you that way.
Yeah, just quickly, it's something we've talked about for a long time. There's more of a need now than ever before, because you guys have you've got a tricky task on your hands. You know, we talk about knocking on doors. You can't knock on doors. You can't sell very easily via the internet. And how do you sell yourself via the internet and know that you're talking to the right people? So you have to be exponentially careful. And that's where there are organizations like us and other associations that can help you. And I think we have a responsibility to try to make those introductions. And the other thing I just put in the chat was, be prepared to do anything, not anything, but anything sensible. Because opportunities are hiding in the most extraordinary places. And don't get too hung up on how many letters you've got after your name. They'll come with time. They truly will. You know, I use my letters after my name, which are QBE, which is qualified by experience. Those are the only letters I have, and they're earned by just hard work. That's all it is. So, you know, currently CEO of SAPICS, and I've been doing this for a long time, and it's all from experience, and it's all from mixing with people like Jaycee, Lerato and Kea and Claire, and learning from all of you as well. So people really do matter, and the people in your lives throughout your career you will reflect and say, as Kea said, even those who bully you, they were put there for a reason. So just remember that one day it will come in useful.
Thanks, everyone. Kolofelo, do you want to just close quickly and thank our brilliant panelists? And thank you, of course.
Okay. Okay. So before wrapping up today's session, I'd just like to give everybody a gentle reminder that we'll be hosting another Young Professionals webinar on the 7th of July. So if you haven't registered, please make sure that you do so. And with that being said, I'd like to thank our guests and our attendees for today. It's really been a fruitful session, and I hope to see you all at the next event. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers, everyone.
Yeah, well done. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good luck, and you know where to find us, hopefully.